Last week was outstanding. If you weren't here, used to nut, Ken Hatfield, the Ken Hatfield Sportsmanship Award. Raise your hand if you were here last week. Was that not an amazing group of young men? And Coach Nutt knocked it out of the park, and great to have Coach Hatfield here. Great to have Dari Nowkhah back today. This will be Dari's third trip to Little Rock into the Touchdown Club, and Dari gets a chance. He handpicks the clubs he speaks at, and he speaks very fondly of this club, and we're glad to have him back and look forward to hearing what he's got to say. It was a fun weekend. Listen, tough weekend for OBU. Hate that. Tough weekend for UCA, but what a weekend for the Razorbacks. It was nice to bounce back and beat those stinking Ole Miss Rebels. Yes, exactly right. Where's Gary Adams? Honorary team captain for this week. Gary's 1-0. I'm 0-1. Give it up for Gary Adams. Obviously, Gary delivered the goods. I could not. But very deserving for you to be honored, Gary. Gary Underwood, would you come up and lead us in a word of prayer? Our last until Joe Theismann speaks January 13th. Come on up, Gary.
Thank you, sir. It's great to have a fellow Okie in the room. Good to have you here. And I have good news about my alma mater. We did not lose a football game last week. Of course, we didn't play. So at least you got to. That's good. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for all the good things that you put in our lives. First of all, for you and the salvation that you provide, the mercy, the grace. Lord, for our friends and our families and the way that you take care of us through every step. Lord, use us today in your service. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, it is a great reminder to be thankful. So much to be grateful for. Sometimes we take it for granted coming in here every Monday. I do too. Been doing it for 18 years and just thinking how blessed. I always tell, we have these amazing hospitals up and down 630, and we could be sitting looking out a hospital window today, but we're here enjoying our freedom and our friendship and talking the great sport of football, which we all love. I want to remind you, go ahead and mute your phone. Just a reminder, mute your phone, and if you want to tell someone, hey, if you want to hear Dari, you can go to 1037thebuzz.com. He'll be live on there in about 12:15, and then you'll go to our Facebook page. But other ways to see Dari today. Do want to thank our great sponsors. Could not do it. I was telling Dari, that the reason this club has grown is because we've got great sponsors who stick with us. It's amazing. The time just keeps passing, and just year after year, we have the same sponsors that stick with us, including starting with 1037 The Buzz, Signal Media. Thank you, Terry Mahan, Justin Akery, Wes Moore, and Roger and RJ and Justin Moore in the mornings for supporting me in this. So thank you to The Buzz. The Hatcher Agency, Twin City Limo, thanks Greg Hatcher and Popeye. How about Greg Hatcher's son, Lane Hatcher? 29 seconds left. Texas State, they're down against his old school, Arkansas State. He makes two passes in 29 seconds, if I remember right, to get him in field goal range and kicks a field goal to win. And Butch Jones comes up to him afterwards and congratulates him and tells him that I knew you would find a way to win. So very happy for Greg and Lane. It's worth giving a round of applause for that, too. I agree. War Memorial Stadium. Are there any Catholic grads in the audience today? Man, are you on fire? What a weekend for you. My goodness, yes. At War Memorial Stadium, we thank them. It was loud. What a great crowd in their defeat of Little Rock Christian. But thank you to Justin Dorsey and Shay Lewis, Stacy Hurst, all with War Memorial in the state parks. Really appreciate them. So glad War Memorial is still being utilized every week. PA Catholic will be a monster game this weekend, Rex. You're exactly right. But thank you to them. Arkansas Urology, Scott Davis and Chris Shinup, we appreciate you guys so much. And I think, where's Dr. Mitchell? Where's Dr. Mitchell? Is he here? Where is he at? I see him. No, I'm looking. He's on his way. He was the one, Roger, that gives our own Roger Scott his DRE every year. That's Roger. So we'll probably have him sit right next to you to feel comfortable. But great to have Dr. Mitchell and Scott. Chris, thanks so much for y'all's support at Arkansas Urology. You guys are the best. We appreciate y'all's support of the Touchdown Club. Pulaski County Farm Bureau, Todd Dennis, Stephen Reichert. We also have a couple special guests today, Aaron Owens and Lucas Perkins, both senior agents. Where are they at? Raise your hand. Great to have you guys here. I appreciate y'all being here, and thank you to Pulaski County Farm Bureau and Todd. We appreciate Todd sticking with us and always delivering on their promise. they'll take real good care of you. Thank you, Todd. Advantage Service Company, Kevin Brooks and the entire team at Advantage Service Company. One call does it all. You name it. HVAC, plumbing, electrical, 501 call. Thank you again for another year, Kevin and your gang. Always here every week. We appreciate your support. Dairy Queen, great to see Dairy Queen. Watch them grow, Rex, with a touchdown club. They will open location number 14 and 15 in 2023. In North Little Rock and Van Buren. Thank you, Blake Lively, Nelson Lively, Todd Denton. Love Dairy Queen, appreciate them. Simmons Bank Arena. One of the things Dari noticed is that, how many things does Simmons have its name on? It's, I said, anything downtown, its name is on it. So, but appreciate Michael Marion, his support, Jenna DeGeorge. I think there might be some tickets still available for the Arkansas Bradley game, but they're up top and they're only $25, but they're not many. So if you want to get that, or if you're a Dwight Yoakam fan, tickets still on sale for that. A Big Red Store celebrating 25 years of serving the state. I was asking the guys before, Dari, the last time I said, were you guys here? The last time Dari spoke at the embassy, and they said, yeah, I can't believe how much time has flown, but you couldn't ask for a better family that runs that organization and gives back to the community. Appreciate that. Store number 50 coming up, right? Store number 50. Soon. But anyway, thank you guys at Big Red, David and Doug and David Jr., Landon, and all the guys over there. We appreciate them so much. Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings, Judy Henry. We've got the Cliff Harris Award coming up. Rex getting ready to dive into that. The top small college defensive player of the year. Have got that. We couldn't do it without Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. Charlie Coleman has been almost perfect. I think David Hendricks Jr. has been to almost every meeting. I think, Charlie, you've been to almost every meeting. Appreciate you being here. Good to see Joe Purvis over there as well, one of your guests. But thank you to Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. Crane Automotive, every week we have guys here from Crane, 23 locations, 1,000 employees. Crane team's got them. They are Arkansas. We appreciate Larry's support of the Touchdown Club. The Democrat Gazette's been here all 18 years. We appreciate Wally Hall and Amanda Copley. Amanda's out today, so we'll work without her on our All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week coming up here in just a minute. But thank you for their long-standing support. And Simmons Bank, got Pat Anderson and David Stockstill here at the head table. I know that, Pat, you were just telling Dari how, for George Macris, the president and CEO, what a favorite this is for him, the Touchdown Club, of all the things you guys do. And we're really honored by that. And when you have a leader that also believes in what we're doing, that's helped us grow together. Couldn't do without you. Let's give it up for Simmons and all of our great sponsors. Absolutely fantastic. Now, this will be the last time until until January. We get to thank all of our Touchdown Club team, Lakia and Brant, Angel and Mark. Appreciate you guys. Matt Johnson, M&M Productions, doing this each week, every week. Posting our videos. If you want to go back and watch Terry Bradshaw from last year, if you want to watch anybody from this year, he's got that posted, does this live every week. Hall of Fame club photographer Dwayne Duncan. Where's Dwayne at? We appreciate Dwayne taking pictures everywhere, always dependable. I love it when I tell, sometimes that we'll talk to an agent. Now, I didn't know what to deal with Dari's agent, but when we say, hey, we will run through these pictures in like 15, 20 minutes. They go, how many are you going to have? I said, we'll probably have 100 people, 200. No, you can't do that. I said, you watch. Because Dwayne Duncan knows how to get it done. So, Dwayne, we appreciate you doing it year after year. R.J. Hawk is not here. He and Meredith Hale have done a great job of social media throughout the year. So we appreciate them. And then new additions to the team, Rex, Amber Helms, and Tom Sawyer from Vines Brookshire Agency. They've really stepped in and done an amazing job of raising the bar for all of our social media. Video of all of our speakers after we get done, they post it. So really appreciate them. And then also, too, I'm going to take this second because this is the last meeting of the year. I want you to stand. Not everybody's here, but I'm going to read off all the names. Now, Dari, this is what's amazing about it. These are all the volunteers that come and work every week. So if you're here, stand up and remain standing. Marilyn Miller, Melissa Nelson, Elizabeth Cloxton, Wanda Pace, Sherry Hall, Jan Morgan, Evelyn Lambert, Amanda Lambert, Cheryl Campbell, Kathy Phillips, Christy Mann, Carolyn Branch, Cassie Duncan, Ron Skaggs, Lee Danner, and Louis Nally. That is the Touchdown Club team. Let's give a big round of applause for them. Wow. Should I stand? Okay, I'm standing. And then the team captain of those amazing folks, Debbie Wyman. She's the best executive director in the country. Let's get up for Debbie. Great job, Debbie. By the way, too, don't forget, we still have Touchdown Club sweatshirts and T-shirts, long sleeve, if you want them. Just see Debbie afterwards or buy them on your way out. All right. It is time for our All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week Award. Dennis, if you'll start making your way up here, all the way from East Poinsett County, Rex. And how long a drive you think that is from East Poinsett?
It's about 2.5 to 3.
It's about 2.5, Coach? That's what they did. So let me tell you what Dennis Gaines did 2 weeks ago. He's a junior at East Poinsett County. With their 48-36 win over Mark Tree, he scored 3 touchdowns, pretty impressive, 33 carries for only 400 yards of rushing. He averaged 12 yards a carry. Not too often you crack the 400, although we might have done that with Rocket if they'd have left him in against Ole Miss. So I asked him this week, Dennis, what'd you do this week? He said, what did you do? What kind of numbers? 5 touchdowns. Okay, 5 touchdowns. Okay, 5 touchdowns, 187 yards rushing. Their big game in the playoff is against Hazen. So at this time, let's give a touchdown club welcome to our All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week, Dennis Gaines. Do want to recognize he brought a couple of his teammates, which is really smart, Dennis. You get them out of class too, man. They owe you for that. Tyrus Real, big Tyrus. Tyrus has got to be an offensive lineman, right? Look at him. Good Lord. Yeah. How much you weigh, Tyrus? How much you weigh? 300. All right. And then you got Cooper Argo. Cooper, what position you play? Wing back. So you got 2 of your teammates, and then Coach Brandon Powell. Let's give it up for Coach and all the teammates there. Great job. All right, our last weekend game review of the year. What a year it's been. Give it up for Rex Nelson, everybody.
Thanks, David. Yep, last one of the year. I'm glad I get to finish with some Hog victory news. That's a good way to finish the season. Arkansas 42, number 14 coming in. Ole Miss 27. KJ Jefferson throws TD passes on 3 consecutive possessions in the first half, and it's pretty much over at that point. How about Raheem Rocket Sanders? 232 rushing yards and 3 scores in that game. Arkansas moves to 6-5 overall, 3-4 in the conference if they can beat Missouri on Friday. I kind of hear the Liberty Bowl calling, David. It's great. Simmons Bank is our main sponsor here. Now it's Simmons Bank Liberty Bowl Stadium in Memphis. It's going to be nice to have the Hogs. Of course, it'll be 14 degrees. It always is when Arkansas goes to Memphis, if that happens. Ole Miss falls to 8-3, 4-3 in conference, and of course they play Thanksgiving night in the Rotten Egg Bowl. So if you can wake up from your stupor of all you ate that day, you can watch that on television on Thursday night. The Rebels made it seem much closer than it really was. They trailed 42-6, of course, at one point. Arkansas finishes the season in Fayetteville games with a record of 4-3, but this was the 5th consecutive time to beat Ole Miss in Fayetteville. The last time Ole Miss won in Fayetteville, Houston Dale Nutt was the Ole Miss coach. So 5 consecutive. Arkansas won the turnover battle 3-0. That was a key too. Ole Miss ended up with 703 yards of offense. That's the most ever allowed by Arkansas in a win. KJ Jefferson now 15-7 as a starter the past 2 seasons. It sure was good to have him back. 17 of 22 passing, 168 yards. The 35 points in the first half, the most for a Razorback team in the first half of an SEC game since 2016. So it had been 6 years since they scored that many points in the first half. It was 34 degrees at kickoff. It dropped to 27 by the end of the game. And I don't know if you heard the sad medical news that came out of Fayetteville because of that cold weather. It had a very adverse effect on the SEC network crew and led them to believe they were doing a stand-up comedy routine in the second half rather than an SEC football game. I'm sure Dari will have an update on their condition when he comes up a little bit later. All right, let's move on. Ouachita's magical season came to an end in the NCAA playoffs. 47-17 loss to Northwest Missouri State. Tigers finished the season 11-1. Northwest Missouri is the Alabama of Division II. They've got more national titles than anybody, 6. They've been in 10 national championship games. They've been in the playoffs 18 consecutive seasons. They've been in the playoffs 26 seasons in all. And after watching them Saturday, they could be on the way to another national championship. UCA finishes the season 5-6, a 40-17 loss in Conway to Jacksonville State. The Gamecocks are 9-2. Jacksonville jumped to a 16-0 lead, led 27-10 at the half. UCA kicker Hayden Ray out of Bryant, though, did finish with a UCA school record for both PATs and field goals. Congratulations to him. As David mentioned, Arkansas State fell to 3-8 overall, 1-6 in the Sun Belt. Texas State improves to 4-7, 2-5. Texas State, my wife's alma mater, wins at 16-13, kicking that 29-yard winning field goal with just 2 seconds remaining. ASU had tied the score with a field goal just 29 seconds earlier. But as David mentioned, Little Rock's Lane Hatcher hits a couple of 21-yard passes to go along with a roughing the passer penalty, and Texas State gets the victory. A great job by Lane at the end of that one. All right, back to the SEC. How about, did anybody see this coming? South Carolina 63, Tennessee 38. Tennessee falls to 9-2, 6-2 in the conference. Gamecocks are 7-4, 4-4 in the conference. Spencer Rattler had the game of his life. He passed for 438 yards and 6 touchdowns against Tennessee. He was 30 of 37 passing in that game, and I guess you saw Tennessee has now lost its quarterback for the rest of the season. Number 1, Georgia didn't have an easy time of it. They had to battle for a 16-6 victory at Kentucky, where basketball seasons had started, so they don't even realize they have a football team right now, but it played pretty well. The Bulldogs 11-0, 8-0. Kentucky falls to 6-5, 3-5, and is 2-5 in its past 7 games after a fast start. And break up the Commodores, right, Dari? How about Vanderbilt, folks? A second consecutive SEC victory. Vanderbilt improves to 5-6 overall, 2-5 in the conference, 31-24 over Florida. The Gators are just 6-5. They are 3-5 in conference thus far this year. 4-7, Texas A&M continues to underperform. The Aggies win 20-3, but it was against a 1-10 UMass team that had lost at Arkansas State the previous week. The Aggies were a 33.5-point favorite going into that game. They won by only 17. Auburn 5-6, a 41-17 win over Western Kentucky. That is 2 in a row. Congratulations to interim coach Cadillac Williams. I like watching him on the sideline. Mississippi State beat East Tennessee State 56-7 as Will Rogers threw for 301 yards and 5 touchdowns. Rogers now number 9 in SEC history with 10,189 passing yards. He has passed Eli Manning now. State is 7-4. East Tennessee State fell to 3-8. Missouri, Friday's opponent, 5-6, a 45-14 non-conference victory Saturday over 4-6 New Mexico State. Alabama, 9-2, 34-0 non-conference victory over Austin Peay. Austin Peay is 7-4. Let's go Peay. LSU, 9-2, 41-10 win over 5-6 Alabama. Birmingham. Now, we've only got 3 teams still playing, and all have their final regular season games, and they're spread over 3 days this Thanksgiving week. On Thursday, UAPB plays in the Turkey Day Classic at Montgomery, Alabama against Alabama State. On Friday, of course, it's Arkansas at Missouri in that long, historic, it was invented by an insurance company, battle line rivalry. And then on Saturday, it's Troy at Arkansas State in Jonesboro. And guess what? I'm planning to be there, David. I'm going to take my own advice, Thanksgiving weekend, but I'm going to get out and see a college football game. Thanks, everybody, for a great season. We appreciate all of you so much for supporting the Little Rock Touchdown Club.
Thanks, Rex. You know, I've been going up to Columbia, Missouri now. Dari was asking how long I've done that for Channel 7. Done it for 10 years. So that means every other year I go up to Columbia. And for 4 out of this will be my 5th time in 10 years. I'm tired of coming back from Columbia with a loss. I'm sick of it. Sick of it. Got to listen. That's what we need. Canaan out there playing is what we need. Couple things before we introduce Dari here real quick. The Broyles Award, by the way, Broyles Award is December 6th, right around the corner. They just announced, where's Jeff Hildebrand? They just announced, Jeff, you saw we just put it out, the 15 semifinalists. And, I mean, it's basically the top assistant coaches in America, and the 5 finalists will be announced next week. They come to Little Rock. And if you have not been to that meeting, it is amazing. It is really great. I want to thank Simmons. I know you're one of our sponsors, and Big Red's one of our sponsors. And so just, couldn't do it without you. But consider maybe going to that. Go to broylesaward.com and get you a ticket or a table for that matter. It's really entertaining, the best in the business. Did want to say real quick, too, congrats, Greg Hatcher. I see Greg over there. Great work, Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame. I was a part of that voting. Really exciting, the new names that will be going in. We announced somewhere, I think, in the next week. Good job there, Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame. The 2 most important ladies in my life, my mother, Carolyn Basil over here, Mama B as they call her, and my girlfriend, Jessica. So great to have my mom up here, and she's at every meeting, and probably every one of you in here has talked to her at one point or the other. And my girlfriend, I'm not the best boyfriend, I admit. I'm not available half the time, and when she wants to do something, I got to prep. I got to prep for Dari. I got to prep for Feinbaum. I got to do this. And so I love you both. Thank you for being so supportive of all these crazy things I do. So thank you. Let's give a round of applause for them for their support of me. I really appreciate them. Some special guests, my buddy Val Hansen, longtime friend of mine. Great to see you here, Val. Love you, buddy. Kevin Kelly, a Hall of Fame high school coach, 9 state championships. Is that right? 9 state championships. Great to see him. Todd Jacobian from Channel 7, who also went to school with Dari at Oklahoma. He is just a diehard Oklahoma fan. Great to see you here with your son. Also, Kanan Sandy and Ginger Sandy. Let's give it up for them in the back. There he is. Super fan, ESPN super fan right there. Listen, I don't know how Ginger and Cannon go not only to every place in Arkansas, they go to where recruits that are thinking about coming to Arkansas, they go to help recruit. I don't know how they do it. He's going to be featured in a great piece by Arkansas PBS coming up at halftime of the high school state championship, so don't miss that. Cannon, love you. You're the best. I know Dari's really excited to have you here. So I think that's it. Debbie, anything else before we get to Dari? We covered a lot of ground, Dari. No pressure. This is the last meeting of the year. You got to deliver now. So got to bring it today. Yeah. All right, let's go to Steve Sullivan. And how about Steve Sullivan doing our intros every year? Let's give a round of applause for Steve Sullivan, who does a great job with our intros. All right, Dari, you can watch the monitor here for your intro, Matt, if you could.
Hey there, I'm Dari Nowkhah, the SEC Network. Now, we're out here at this tournament every year, giving you a ton of coverage. In fact,
it was back in 2014 that the SEC Network went all in on Dari Nowkhah. They made Dari their lead anchor. He's a natural, a guy who makes those around him and the show better.
Just so people know, over the course of the summer, text you, man, how you doing? How's rehab? You'll be like, I'm good. How's your family? Like, no, I'm not here to talk about me. I want to talk about you. That's you. That's Patrick Kim.
It's sometimes you have to have somebody like him show you the inspiration.
Like most, Dari got his start in small town USA, Kalispell, Montana. From there, it was off to Lincoln, Nebraska. Then it was home to Tulsa. What a great spot for a lifelong Sooner fan.
in a lot of cases, I'm the sole representative of the University of Oklahoma, which is something that's important to me. This university will always kind of be a part of who I am.
His second favorite team happens to be, yes, Arkansas.
Go Hogs.
Dari has done it all at the SEC Network and ESPN. Please welcome one of the good guys in the TV business, Dari Nowkhah.
Put that together, thank you. Yes, a lot of stuff I have to say. I'm not sure I believe it. I should have looked to see what year we had you the first time. It's probably been 10 years, probably the first time. We've been around 18 years, so probably because you came in 2018, I believe.
Was that okay?
I think that was the last one. I
Yeah.
think.
It's always great to come here.
Yeah.
I always love coming to Arkansas, anyways. But now you guys, I mean, I'm fortunate that I get to do these around the South, and they're prevalent. I mean, there's a lot of them, but they're not like this one. I mean, you guys, this is an incredible group that you guys have, and everything that you put into this, Baz. I think the world of you, man. I don't know that you're ever not working. I actually would like to shake your hand at some point, Jessica, because I've heard about you, but I haven't seen you because he's always working.
You know, it's funny. One of my now this is not a great clip, but I remember, because obviously you work in the studio every Saturday night, and I was laying in bed. This was, I guess, 5-6 years ago at Battle of the Boot. And I just happened to have my phone, and I saw Dari. This was when I did not realize I was talking to the team. I didn't know that you guys had a camera in there, and it was rolling on it. So, Matt, this is the volume is a little low, but this is the Saturday night show that Dari does, where Dari picked up me talking in the locker room. I just love to hear his delivery on this, if you can.
Friday, former Arkansas linebacker David Basil, who created the Golden Boot, putting a challenge to the Hogs here.
When that game is over with, okay? If you want to shake hands, that's fine. But once it's done, I want either 5 of you, 10 of you, 20 of you, or all of you to run your ass down there and get that boot.
Here's one of my favorites right there, Basil. And you need them all, Boog. That's a heavy thing, right? That's a heavy piece of material. Look at it. Look at it. How great is that? They do exactly what David Basil told them to do. 17-0 victory for the Razorbacks.
All right, that's one of my favorite clips. Man. Yes, one of my favorite clips. So obviously you did grow up in Oklahoma. So obviously you're next door to the state. And is the geography why you like Arkansas, or is it what's the scoop there?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not an SEC guy. I guess Todd and I will have our school in the SEC soon enough. I just I grew up. There were Razorback fans around where I lived in Tulsa. I had a bunch of friends from high school that came out and went to Arkansas. But I've always just kind of thought, and maybe it's geography, maybe it's as simple as that I think Arkansans and Oklahomans are a lot alike in a lot of ways in terms of their values and what's important to them. So I've just kind of always naturally gravitated to Arkansas. Balaam has been a long time friend of mine, even when he was at Wisconsin. It was always good to come here and see him, and I think the world of that guy, and I hope he kills it at Illinois, and he's had a really good run so far. But that always, helped me start really kind of growing a little more affection for Arkansas too.
Speaking of Okie, if you can, the next picture up there, Matt, of that guy right there.
Hey, exactly.
He's an Oklahoma guy. He went to the Lou Holtz camps back in the late 70s. I think he's 1 year older than me. A guy just like you. Geography, made him to where he paid attention to Arkansas, and who knew that he'd be the head coach?
How about Barry Odom too, another Okie.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
that's right.
Pittman and Odom.
So what are your thoughts on Coach Pittman?
Oh, I love the guy. I do. I love he's just as down home as it gets, and easy to root for. I hate that this year hadn't gone necessarily the way that I think a lot of people expected it to. And I think a lot of that is frankly because of the incredible success. Even in the 3-7 year of 20, we saw where they were going, and then to have the 9 wins last year. It's hard to they play traditionally, it's almost every year. It's either 1 or 2 in terms of their schedule difficulty in the country. It's hard to ask them to go 9-3, 10-2 every year. And look, we saw Saturday what their identity is, and it's just run the ball, and then occasionally have KJ hit you somewhere. And when they do that, they can be pretty good.
You can make the argument. I saw, where do you think Arkansas right now, ranks in terms of the entire SEC? You obviously start off with Georgia. You got Tennessee. You got LSU. That's 3. Who is the 4th? Alabama. Then after 4. So, had to put them in there.
A&M. No.
No, wait a minute. No.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's
no,
the point.
I'm joking. Yeah,
that's the point.
Yeah, you could argue that.
Mississippi State, Arkansas did lose to Mississippi State, but some of the rankings I saw, some people still put Arkansas at number 5 after those 4.
Well, sometimes what happens weeks ago, the whole power ranking idea. We always do this at the end of. We used to. We haven't done it much this year. It's like Chris Doring, myself. We might. Go grab a beer after our late Saturday show and just sit there and rank them 1 to 14 and see how we compare. We haven't done it that much this year, but if I did it now, I would put them ahead of Mississippi State. You know, it's what happened 4 or 5 weeks ago doesn't necessarily reflect on how a team is today.
And we didn't have KJ at the time either in that game.
Exactly right. Yeah, so, no, I think that's probably fair. Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, Bama. I don't know who else you'd put ahead of them. Just don't lose to Missouri.
How crazy is it? I think that, you know, Arkansas loses to Liberty. Not just loses, gets embarrassed. I mean, they just manhandled.
First half was awful.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. And then Liberty comes back and loses their next 2 games to UMass and Virginia Tech. This past week, 2 weeks ago, Florida shuts out South Carolina, manhandles South Carolina. This week, Florida loses to Vandy. And then somehow South Carolina hangs 63 on Tennessee.
I can't. The 63 on Tennessee. We're sitting there watching that in the studio Saturday night and just completely like baffled. Just absolutely, how is this happening? I mean, you're, talking about Spencer Rattler. Jacobian and I look at each other and kind of start laughing. Like, where the heck's that been, right? But good for him. Like, I'm really happy for him. I'm glad that he had that performance. But what happened to Tennessee? I don't know. If you would have told me that somebody's scoring 60 in that game, I actually would have picked Tennessee to score 60 in that game. And we hate what happened to Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
and to have to finish the year without him, and we hope him nothing but the best. And does it impact his ability to get to, be in New York at a Heisman ceremony? Is he going to be one of those guys? I don't know. That hurts. But, I didn't see that coming. It's a crazy game. Not only that, like we saw, like on a national level, TCU escapes. Michigan escapes. Ohio State, there were times that looked a little bit iffy.
Right. North Carolina loses to Georgia Tech.
Right.
I mean, with interim coach. North Carolina has a chance to be in the playoff picture and loses that game.
And here's the good news to that, though, is that when Clemson beats them, or if they do, that's not going to help Clemson that much.
Right.
So we like that, too.
2 things we have to get. I know you talked with Wes and Justin on their show, but I didn't want to spend the time playing the clip, but there was some controversy on whether or not there was some heated discussion on the show previously with Peter Burns and Ben Watson. Yep. And so, everybody asked you, we had an argument on our show whether it was real or whether it was just fabricated.
What did you think it was?
I think it was, well, I've heard the story. So I told
you last night.
And Amanda Brooks, the PR person for the SEC Network, came out publicly and said it was not what it looked like. It was the guys having fun. So would you want to make a statement on that?
I can, sure. So first of all, I'll just paraphrase the statement. Peter's there until I get there at around 4 Eastern, and then he goes home, and I finish the night. And it was Peter and Doring and Takeo and Ben. All of them had roughly the same color suit on except Ben. Ben said, I don't really care about my color suit as long as my wife texts me, says, hey, you look good, babe. Which, honestly, about every week, his wife texts him that, hey, you look good, babe. And he does look good, babe. I mean, I'm not going to lie. He does. And that's a sharp-looking man right there. It's like Basil over here with the hair and it's all that. And so Burns says something along, and so Ben's like, text me, babe. And as they're going to break, Burns turns and says, okay, I'll just say it. That's not what she texted me. Now, Ben Watson is one of the greatest, most committed husbands and fathers you will ever know. And while he's a phenomenal teammate of ours, his wife isn't the one I would bring into a conversation in that way. So that part was just PB, kind of just being PB a little bit, right? So they go to break. Coordinating producer says, all right, let's have some fun with this. It happened. Let's have some fun with this. PB, Ben, you guys go off the set. Doring and Takeo take it when we come out. And then Ben start walking back like he just took care of some business. So that's what Ben does. He comes out and he's straightening his suit. So that part was fabricated.
Yes.
PB did not. He did escape harm.
Yeah.
But in the world of social media, which he loves, he's taken a bit of a beating. And realistically, I'll sit here and say I don't have an issue with it. I'd say it to him to his face. That was probably not the comment to the guy that you make the comment to. That just at times, you want to be funny, cute, clever, whatever. Leave Keep the wife out of it.
Well, you and Peter are the two main anchors for the SEC. You're the lead anchor, but both of you have different personalities. I find it interesting. Both of you have different styles, and you do it in your own way.
It's funny. People think I'm like 15 years older than him. I'm 3 years older than he is. I just act 15 years older. I'm just kidding. He knows I love him. I do. Peter's great. He's funny as hell. He wants to work all the time.
Yeah.
We exchange shifts quite a bit just because family stuff comes up. He's always says yes, and I try to help him out as much as I can too. He's a good guy.
The other thing, and I want to do a poll because I'm up in the press box watching the game, so I don't get a chance to watch the telecast. But I'm looking at my Twitter feed and I'm seeing this hate. This is the worst broadcast ever. It's embarrassing. I mean, embarrassment right the SEC network. So if you enjoyed the sideline broadcast from the SEC network, I want you to raise your hand.
Is this part actually necessary? Oh, okay,
yeah,
good. That's more than I thought.
And so if you did not enjoy it, raise your hand. Okay, so it's probably 60-30, 60-40 rather. Yeah. So anyway, so what are you hearing? Do you get?
I had nothing to do with it.
Not that I said you would be.
I know. I'm just sitting in studio. And so I remember because the game before yours was long. It was, who was that? Auburn game. And it was running long. And so and what I'm hearing is it's getting closer to 7:30 our time, Eastern time, is okay, we're probably going to have, there's these different scenarios. Tom, Jordan, and Cole have some special intro planned. So we're hoping the Auburn game ends so that they can do whatever they're going to do. We didn't know exactly what they were going to do. So then the Auburn game's running long. I think there were like 40 seconds left in the game. Bring it back studio. I say we're kicking them over to ESPN News. Now let's go to Fayetteville. And they're on the field, which I don't have an issue with because it's different. But from what I understand from those who have mentioned this to me, is it wasn't so much that they broadcasted from the field. It's that in the second half, it became more about them on the field. Is that what it was? Yeah. So, I've called a lot of games. I don't call many football games. I've called a lot of basketball games and baseball games. Look, if it's a route, and be thankful that it was a route, right? You just try to find ways to entertain. If that game's 24-21, they're not doing any of that. But it was out of hand. It was never close. So I think they just thought they were being a little different and maybe more entertaining that way.
And I like that team, Tom and Cole and Jordan. Yeah, I think they're a good team. And again, if it hadn't been a blowout, especially if you're Ole Miss, I can see how Ole Miss fans probably were irritated too. It was nice for the Razorbacks, though, was it? Hey, keep showing Tusk all you want to, and we keep scoring touchdowns. That's fine with me. But I was just curious. One of the things about you is that you have a real unique background in terms of your father. And I got a chance to meet your dad last night, Cy, 72, right? 73 years old. Yep. Came here from Iran in the late 60s.
Yep.
And you grew up, it's interesting, Roger Scott and I, we sort of had the same thing. We grew up watching cartoons and playing with G.I. Joes and Big Jims and all that. You were not into the cartoons at an early age. No. You were actually into sports at an early age.
Yeah, I didn't watch cartoons. I mean, I didn't watch anything my friends watched. I was watching sports reruns, and ESPN used to replay Notre Dame football games 100 times, or Canadian Football League. Like if I could watch live sports, even at 4 or 5 years old, I was watching live sports or even replayed sports. I just became a sports fanatic at an early age. I mean, he was certainly a part of that coming over from Iran. He was as American as you're going to get even before he left Iran. I mean, he learned English, listening to American and English rock and roll, watching television
music,
shows.
Yeah.
I never learned how to speak Farsi. I never ate Persian food as a kid. I mean, he was just integrated into this country as though he was born and raised here. He loved football from the second he stepped foot here. He was a Redskins, now Commanders fan, because the first place he went was D.C. when he came to the U.S. He got me into it. We used to go to Tulsa games. He graduated from Tulsa. We used to go to Tulsa games. If I wasn't in Norman for a home game and Tulsa was at home, then I was at Tulsa for a home.
Yeah. He was in school the same time Drew Pearson was.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had Drew here last year, went to the NFL Hall of Fame. And so you grew up, I think your granddad was Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
Yeah, and that you would go, you went to hockey games, and you fell in love with this all as a kid. You said you were sort of undersized, so you
sort of,
yeah, sort of undersized, and that maybe sports was not going to be your one venue for you, one avenue. So you decided to go, okay, maybe I can do this broadcast thing, even though nothing was guaranteed. So you went to Union High School, right? Same place.
Union High School, yeah.
Yeah.
Now the Red Hawks.
Yeah, and so go to OU.
Yep.
And decide to go into journalism there.
Yep.
And
I didn't go there to do journalism though. So my dad's an electrical engineer, and my dad was always saying, it's hard to do TV, right? The odds of success are minimal. I was always good at math, and I was always good at science, and so he's like, why don't you just try engineering or medicine? So my first semester, I actually listened to him, and I was a pre-med major at OU. So I took chemistry. Todd, did you ever take chemistry? Did you ever have to? And it's a 500-600 person class, and it was the hardest class I ever took. And every all-nighter I ever did in college was that one class, and I got a B. But I went into my advisor and I was like, I'm going to change my major to broadcast journalism. He was not thrilled with that at the time, but it's worked out fine. Yeah, I knew I wanted to be around sports. Like in high school, we had a mass media program and a radio station that aired in the Commons at Union. Nobody listened to it or whatever, but we got to talk sports on it and stuff. And so I changed majors. Ended up doing what I love.
Well, one of the things I love about, if you've listened to our show, Morning Mayhem, me, Roger, and RJ, we've had Justin Moore. And Justin is like really a fan on the radio. He holds no punches. I mean, he literally hates and he hopes demise to all things Ole Miss, Texas, and LSU. And also, I've heard it's pretty clear who your teams are. You're an OU guy, and which I think is interesting. I love the fact that, Peter Burns is big, LSU, that you can have those, you can be loyal and still like, for example, what a great show. I don't know if you've heard Dari and Mel Kiper Saturday mornings. How long have you guys been doing that show now?
12 years.
It's a great show, and y'all are just as passionate. There's a mix between being a broadcaster and also being a fan at times and expressing. But I think that's cool. I like that.
Mel's the same way. Yeah. I mean, Mel, it could be January, and Mel will bust into some random 60-second rant about the Orioles because he loves the Orioles. It's like, I don't need an Oriole minute in January, man. Ravens, Orioles, those are his teams. And, so like the OU stuff, it's funny. Yes, they're coming into the league, which is awesome, but think of the number of games OU's played against SEC teams. Big football. 3 years in a row, I went to cover OU versus a different SEC team and watched them lose.
Right.
Now, one of them was Georgia and the double overtime in Pasadena in the Rose Bowl. Certainly the best game I've ever seen in person. But then it was Alabama and Miami, and then LSU hung a 60-whatever spot on Joe Burrow threw 6 first-half touchdowns, I think. And, that was – so it's been tough to watch them lose. There's a line, though. Like, I remember I watched the OU-Georgia game on the sideline next to Greg Sankey for the whole first quarter. Baker Mayfield throws a touchdown to Hollywood Brown. OU scores first. And I'm not cheering. Greg knows. Greg and I are close. He knows who I root for. And he kind of looked at me, looked down at me, like, 'cause, he's here. Everybody's here. And he looks down at me, and I'm like, not getting anything out of me, Like, I'm not going to be on the air yelling Boomer Sooner.
Right.
Whether they're in the league or they're out of the league.
Right.
But we all know where everybody went to school. Taquio's Auburn, Ben's Georgia, Chris is Florida, Peter, he went to UTSA, played golf, but he's an LSU guy, Baton Rouge native. We all have our schools. That's part of the sports thing. Like, we all have passion for teams.
Were you thrilled when you heard the news? You're like, oh, man, OU, Texas to SEC.
Oh, my God, I was thrilled.
Because you covered them, but part of you is being able to work and broadcast. That's great, two blue bloods. But as a fan, like, wow, okay.
Yeah, I've had to tell a lot of people, and anybody that knows OU well and knows this league well has probably had to tell a lot of people in Oklahoma, you're probably going to have more 8-4s than 11-1s. Like, that's this league. It's a grind. It is an absolute utter grind. But yeah, I remember the day because I'd heard it was a rumor, and I was at a doctor's appointment with my wife. If you all know that we have 4 kids, like we just had a late in life baby 15 months ago that we did not necessarily see coming. We know how it happened, but like still at that point in life we didn't necessarily expect it. Just to clarify, I told you I was good at science back in high school. So we're at a doctor's appointment. It was in the middle of like COVID stuff, and so she's in the appointment. I'm not allowed to go in. I'm sitting in the car listening to sports radio, and then the news broke that it was actually going to happen. And she gets in the car, and I left the sports radio on, which I'd normally never do because Jen, someday I'm going to bring her here. She's got so many friends in this crowd. It's insane. I mean, she's made so many friends in this crowd. But she was like, she heard it, and she goes, like, so that's good for you, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's good for me, She doesn't know a football from a hockey puck in general, but she's, this is streaming. Crap. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry about that. But it literally led to like a 30-minute conversation about sports that we've never had before. Never had before. Kind of a funny story from that. So I was in Omaha for the College World Series Finals. It's one of my good gigs is I get to go if we have an SEC team in the finals. And it happened to be Ole Miss and Oklahoma this year. And Ole Miss won their first championship in baseball. And the second game of the best of three, and there was only two, I spent 3 innings up in the OU box because I know Joe Castiglione, their athletic director, and I met Jeff Levy, their offensive coordinator, was there. I hadn't met him before, former Ole Miss and now OU. And the president, Joe Harris, who I'd never met before. He's only been there a couple of years, I think. And young guy, full of energy, great. And he was telling me the story. He said, we're thrilled about it, but my wife, who is all SEC, like she's an SEC fanatic, the day it became official, I got home, and my wife looked at me when I walked in the door, gave me a big old hug, and said, Joey, I've never loved you more than I love you right now. That's the OU school president. So there's a lot of excitement about coming to this conference.
Do you think? What do you think it does to the landscape of college football to have a conference like this? Do you think it's good? Do you think what's happening is good, or you like the old school days where By the way, Keith Jackson, who's my age, my teammate, not teammate, but rather, back you said you were growing up with Jamel Holloway.
I had an '88 jersey.
Yeah,
when I was a kid.
Yes, you betcha. Nebraska, and some of those things are gone. You like it or no?
There's parts I like. There's parts I don't. I don't want this to be a country with the SEC and the Big Ten and ESPN and Fox. I don't want that. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't want the Pac-12 to dissolve. I don't want the Big 12 to dissolve. It's not the world we live in. It's like we have to accept it or do I love transfer portal? Not necessarily. It's just, but I'll tell you this, like for 12 weeks during football season, we haven't even mentioned the transfer portal. We haven't mentioned NIL. Like all that stuff, we're just watching games and whoever's on whoever's team is whoever's on whoever's team. We're watching them. We're enjoying them. We're calling them. We're enjoying what are the playoff rankings going to look like? Who's going to get in? Who's not going to get in? What's got to happen? We're just talking football now. So all that stuff, the offseason, just kind of faded away, and we're enjoying football. Probably if it gets to that conference-wise, it'll be the same thing. It's just a new reality. We love the game. We're not going to quit loving the game because of it. We just have to accept it and move forward with it. But the traditionalist in me likes... I don't like the idea of super conferences. And I realize money is the driving force. I get it. The Big Ten's got it, and the SEC's got it, and nobody else has what's even close to it. I was just in the Tallahassee quarterback club last week talking to the Florida State contingent there, and they're worried, and they should be, because they're $36 million a year, or whatever it is, with the ACC on a contract that runs to 36, is not going to allow them facility upgrades, coaching pay, all of the things that recruiting budget, all of the things that go into building a consistent winner. Can you have 1 or 2 good years from time to time? Sure. But like on the whole, $100 million in the Big Ten or $100 million in the SEC, $35 million to operate with in the ACC, how do you compete? I don't like that part of it.
I don't know if you'll be willing to say this, but which fan base do you get? I'm not saying it's bad, but which do you get the most reaction from? And you try to say, I'm sure you're neutral, but do you get the most, the SEC network is biased, or do you get that from any of the fan bases? You're like, oh, okay, here we go again. Does every fan base do that?
In the SEC? Yeah. No, they all do that. they all do that. You know who it is? It's Arkansas fans who hated the broadcast Saturday night. I'm just, golly, man, get off my mentions. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not like, I have a Twitter page and Facebook for the family and a lot of the friends here. I don't get on there much, honestly. I kind of don't like it. You talk about me and Burns being different. Like, his middle name is Twitter. Mine is not. They're all that way. I mean, and I just think that's a normal thing. Yeah.
Matthew put up the picture. I think this is a great picture of your family. So introduce us to everybody there.
All right, yep. All right, so the the lady next to me would be Jen. That's my lovely wife of 19 and a half years. The little baby was our little surprise, Adeline, who looks a lot different now at 15 months, but that's Addie. And then my son on the right, Nick, whose hair is even a lot longer than that. He's 17 and a half almost. Middle is Layton. She's my 10-year-old. Now, she's the one that's my sports fan. So, you know, she's fired up to watch the U.S. play here at 1 o'clock in the World Cup, and we became fans of Charlotte FC, the soccer team that was kicked off there this year, and she loves hockey with me. We're Hurricanes fans. And then that's Nala, my other girl. She's 13, so she's a 7th grader. God, she looks old in that picture, though, doesn't she? Holy cow. So Nala we adopted as a newborn. She was born in Atlanta. We lived in Connecticut, and we went through an agency because we always wanted to adopt, and there was a great need in the African-American community of people to adopt. And so we made that decision, and we're thrilled that we did.
Last time you were here, you told the story about Hayden and about Hayden's Hope. You have several folks in here that probably supported you. Talk about, if you can, for those who don't know that story, share that.
Yeah, back in 2011, Jen and I had a little baby boy. He would have been our third behind Nick and Nala, and named Hayden. We had just moved to Charlotte 4 weeks earlier. And we got him home. Everything was good. He's a healthy baby. But third day home, which was his 6th day of life, we discovered he had a fever of 102.3. I would say I'll never forget that number. Like if there's a great radio station that's 102.3, I won't listen to it. I don't want to see it. And we took him to the hospital that day, and the thought was he's just got a virus. It'll run its course. 24 hours after the fever breaks, he goes home, everything's fine. Well, the virus never went away. His breathing became more and more labored. We had to admit him. And in the virus, really long story, I'll keep it as short as I can. The virus ended up impacting the left side of his heart, so he needed to go on what's called ECMO, which essentially pumps the blood for him to save the effort or save what was left of that left side of the heart. As he was on the device, he suffered a stroke because blood clots can happen, and we had to let him go. He was on the heart transplant list. We were basically told, like, look, if that rare baby heart comes open, it's going to go to a baby who's otherwise healthy. So that happened. He lived 39 days, and then we started a foundation called Hayden's Hope in conjunction with the Children's Organ Transplant Association. They're based in Indiana, but it's a national group that basically said, you guys run it, you guys raise the money, and then what we do is every bit, because they handle all the tax stuff from their own organization, so every dollar that we raise at Hayden's Hope goes to families of children who are awaiting a life-saving organ transplant. And to date, we've raised well over $300,000, and we've helped 50, 60 families around the country.
Yeah, the good and bad of social media is, we deal with the bad. You just obnoxious people at times. But, one of the great things is that my mother will come in and say something. Well, you know what's going on with Dari and Jen? No. How do you know? Well, I'm followed on Facebook. So it is interesting how a few years ago that, when we told your story and Jen's story is that people connect with you guys and you guys stay in contact with folks. And that's just the beauty of Facebook. I know there's some people here the same way.
Yeah, there's nobody here. Like, there's not another club I would go to with as many people as consider myself friends with here. And certainly Kanan and his family and your mom is awesome, and your mom and Jen. I mean, I feel like they talk. I don't know if you guys have each other's phone numbers.
But she said she goes, well, you saw the picture that you and Dari and Dari's dad and you last night. No, where'd you see that? It was on Facebook.
So Jen must have put that.
I guess she did.
Now, and if it was on my page, then Jen put it there too, because I don't ever do my own Facebook. I don't. Well, but Tom Mitchell, who's not here today, he's normally here. He's become a family friend of ours. Hazel's become a family friend of ours, of course. Yeah. So, no, we feel very intertwined with this group.
Well, I think we all can agree. One, you're an outstanding broadcaster. You're just super at what you do. You make it look easy. Whether I do anything with you, you do something with us. I mean, you're just smooth. You've worked real hard. You're one of the best in the business, and you're a good guy. I think there's certainly some value there. And listen, we can keep bringing you back every 4 or 5 years if you want to. You guys good with that? Let's give it up for Dari and Nowkhah, everybody.
Appreciate it, everybody. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you for being here. We'll see you in January for Joe Theismann. Thank you for a great year.
Guys. Thank you.
We'll get pictures with Dari if you want them. Just get in line. We'll get that done.
Hey, Dari.